Recently, the Chinese defense minister said that they're supporting Russia in Ukraine, no matter what the West says. When you look at Russia and China together, how intertwined are these two countries militarily, which is the consequence of their economic and security ties. But when it comes to their military, how intertwined are these two countries and how strategically important it is, in your opinion?
Well, it's extremely important. I will start from that. The Minister of Defense, current Minister of Defense of China, he's a graduate of the Russian Academy of the General Staff. And I think so that this is very important in terms of understanding how to coordinate, not intertwine, but coordinate and uh, conduct joint operations with Russia. And this is extremely important, especially if you consider that neocons in their desperation, they might go and will twist hands of Biden, go for all out, and over Taiwan, and then China will have to react, and that could be a very bloody affair. And Russian support in this case will be absolutely crucial for China. And I'm talking obviously not just political support, obviously, but also for their purely military support. And in this particular case, if you look attentively at the latest, what was the recent one of the recent maneuvers or exercises, Russians and Chinese are actually training the joint units. So that means what? For example, you have the squadron of the helicopters. Half of them will be Chinese, others will be Russian, and they will communicate. They will have the common communications network established. So it's serious. There's no doubt about that. It is very serious. Plus, we know that the number of Chinese officers are either studying in the Academy of General Staff or rumor has it, I don't quote me on that, but there are some Chinese officers also on the near front lines, let's put it this way, of the special military operation.
In the United Kingdom, in Sweden, in Germany, especially in Germany, they're talking about fighting Russia. In your opinion, do they really believe what they're saying, or they just doing this for the benefit of their position?
I would say 70-30. They do it for power, obviously, because those are people who have no principles, morality, or honor in their life. They exist and operate only for the sake of maintaining the power and exercising it. But some of them are so stupid, they do believe it. Obviously, it's complete delusion. So it's combination of two factors, but primarily those people have no principles. They just want to maintain the power. I mean, when you look at the military potentials of Germany or United Kingdom, it's laughable. Earlier today we had the conversation. Larry Johnson, Anya, and me we spoke about it. It's not even serious, And how to put it politely? I mean, they can pretend whatever they want to be. But reality, of course, doesn't support any of their claims. And I don't know how Germany, especially, whose industry already was struggling before their start of the special military operation, now essentially it's cut off the Russian cheap energy. I mean, they're not competitive. The Ministry of Economic Development yesterday stated that actually we lost competitiveness. Of course, they lost competitiveness, and they're going to be pushed towards the second world status, if not the third world in some parts. So there you go. Yeah.
When you look at the military industrial complex of Germany and United Kingdom, are they different from each other? Are they to some extent similar? How powerful are they?
Not very powerful. Obviously, for UK can still build some vessels such as the aircraft carriers, which cannot go to sea. And of course, they have issues with the couplings and the main shaft, which is it's unbelievable, for the country of the 21st century to not being able to really get the propulsion of the side ships right, considering the glorious and very long naval history of the United Kingdom. But United Kingdom, for example, doesn't have its real aerospace industry anymore in a military sense. They still obviously produce state-of-the-art engines such as Rolls-Royce, but in terms of aircraft, combat aircraft, they cannot do anything about it. They subsist on the American fodder, so to speak. Same goes for Germany, which in basically violation or in defeat of any kind of the European interest, decided to buy F-35s. That pretty much puts an end on any combat aerospace aspirations of unified Europe. So, and yes, Germany economically is not becoming not competitive. So, and as because of that, and especially against the background of losing the remnants of the reputation of German military hardware after basically the Leopard tanks have been burned, I mean, in industrial quantities, and they are simply not fit for the modern battlefield. So when you begin to look at it, well, they can produce a frigate, maybe one of the submarines of the something like Type 212. Other than that, I mean, Rheinmetall, I mean, what can I say? German guns actually turned out to be not very good, with the huge issues with the barrels, the laners of the barrels, and extremely low, not quality, sustainability. So, and when you look at this, of course, they're somewhat different, those military industrial complexes, but they suffer from the same illness. They will be consumed, and they are being consumed by the American military industrial complex. American military industrial complex needs to eat too, you know. So they will have American hardware shoved down their throats. And that means only one thing: they're dying out of the remnants of the high level, high tech capabilities and competences in those countries. So this is simple as that.
One of the weapons that came to this battle in Ukraine was these Patriot systems, which are much newer than Russian S-300. How did they work out for Ukraine, and how successful was this experiment for the United States, for NATO in this battle?
Oh, that it was a dismal performance. What Ukraine was supplied with the latest iteration of the Patriot MEM 1 or whatever the hell, 104 Patriot Pack 3, which is PAC stands for the Patriot Advanced Capabilities. This system actually was humiliated already in Saudi Arabia in 2019, 2020, when it couldn't even intercept the Houthis drones, let alone, I mean, it cannot intercept supersonic missiles, forget about hypersonic. And as a result, Russia was basically blowing them to smithereens periodically. So when it can find them, and usually it's around Kiev, but for example, IL-76 have been shut down by the latest, which was carrying the 65 prisoners of war of Ukraine for the exchange. It was shut down by Patriot missile, which was probably couple launchers which they sneaked in front of before the exchange. They knew that this IL-76 was coming, and they shut it down. It's an easy target. And other than that, very dismal performance. It doesn't even compare to the newer iterations of S-300, let alone when we talk about S-300 V4, which is extremely advanced system, and its other name is Ante 2500, let alone S-400. It's not even in the same league. It's if you look at the performance envelopes, it doesn't even measure up to the earlier versions of S-300s. And so basically, I am on the record: United States is not even in the same league in air defense with Russia. So in this particular case, it was as dismal performance as of the Leopard tanks, as was pretty much most of the American hardware, starting from those Holy Javelins, which really they showed, I mean, absolutely dismal, something like 20% combat effectiveness. This is just not serious weapon system for the real combat, real combined arms conflict of scale. So
The other weapon that was so efficient and so different in this battle in Ukraine was these drones. And former Google CEO wants to build AI drones for Ukraine. It seems that we've heard that he want to do that. When it comes to AI getting together with drones, it's a huge area of advancement. Recently, Putin was talking about this and said how important this area is for Russia. In future, are we getting toward these kind of wars that we are gonna fight without anybody on the plane and just drones fighting each other?
Well, in terms of AI, you have to get Dmitry Orlov back. He will explain to you that it is much exaggerated capability, obviously, that it's not really AI in the sense that it's just advanced algorithms and advanced sensors with the good sensor fusion and things of this nature, which allow you to operate them in a much more advanced manner, so to speak, even if as it was possible even 10 years ago. But the point is, drones are just addition. They are not game changer. They are just part of the tactical tools, which are tactical technical tools, which are available for the modern battlefield commanders and units which fight the war. So let's not forget that still nobody prohibited from using the electronic warfare or electronic countermeasures and other types of suppressive means which reduce the effectiveness of the drones. But of course, you will use it, and their use will expand, no doubt about it, across the whole spectrum of the drones, starting from the most primitive ones you can buy somewhere in Costco or anywhere, and stick the grenade to it and try to find some, unlucky chap, there, and drop this grenade on his head. But two drones, which of course state-of-the-art strategic level, like S-70 Охотник, capable to carry their stealthy, they're capable to carry the whole spectrum of the attack weapons, including standoff weapons. So yeah, there will be swarm tactics. It has been in the making for actually decades now. So, and it's just as any weapon system, it will continue to develop, it will continue to evolve, and it's gonna be seen, of course, even greater use over the battlefield. But do not forget that also the countermeasures also do not stand still. They also you develop all kinds of the countermeasures for that. But of course, this type of the use of the drones, which make their real serious tactical, let alone operational impact, you'll have to have many of them and have a very well designed and in place infrastructure and tactics of how to use them. But yes, we are in the age of the drones too, but I wouldn't still kind of overemphasize their importance. They are important, but they are just pretty much a logical evolution of their modern warfare.
Victoria Nuland was in Ukraine talking with Zelensky, and we know that there are differences. We talked about Zelensky and Zelensky before. What was the importance of this trip to Ukraine? Does it have anything to do with these differences between Zelensky and Zelensky? Is Washington going to support Zelensky over Zelensky?
Well, I do not really follow this anymore because it's like soap opera, but it has Victoria Nuland's visit had everything to do with that. She was there to, don't forget, for neocons, it's their baby, it's their project. And this project is now basically collapsing with catastrophic results for them. So she was there to try to resolve, quote unquote, the issue. I think so that she appointed and pointed towards Zelensky and told him that you will be the guy who will be left with the, holding the bag. So, and I believe from what I heard, they chose Zelensky to the end for now, at least. And if to believe their rumors, which are coming from their Rada, which is so-called parliament, which they have the Zaluzhny, is said to be basically sent to London as the ambassador. I mean, hey, whatever, so it makes no difference who is in power anymore in Kiev.
do you see any capability in the Biden administration to come out with a solution for Ukraine, or they gonna leave it for the next administration?
I don't think so. They are capable to come up with solutions beyond their capability. It's beyond their intellectual and capability and beyond their political means. Because don't forget, neocons basically infested all political and governance structure within the Washington. So even if to imagine, which is impossible anyway, that Biden wakes up tomorrow and says, "Oh, let's stop this, bloodshed. Let's kind of do something." Russia is not going to talk to him anymore. Russians are not talking to Washington. These are not people, even if Biden somehow wakes up, to talk to, because he also will have his hands twisted by this neocon cabal, which literally dominates American foreign policy. In fact, they not just dominate, they formulate it. And their foreign policy is based on the absolute visceral hatred of not just Putin, but Russia and Russian people. It is driven by cultural, historic, and racial attitudes. So, and these guys, this thought, because they are very badly educated, that's the only type people who come up of the Ivy League and all those, supposedly elite universities. They do not understand how the world works. And of course, Washington is utterly illiterate and incompetent in anything military related. And because of that, they were trying to settle accounts, not just with Putin. They wanted Russian people to suffer, and they wanted them to, again, most of those people who sit there, they wouldn't mind, if Russian population would be reduced tomorrow in half. They're genocidal maniacs, many of them. So, but it didn't turn out because obviously, precisely, it's a Dunning-Kruger effect. You cannot, to put it in the most reasonable and simple layman's term, is that you cannot explain to a fool that he is a fool because he is a fool. And the same goes to those people. You cannot explain to them that you do not understand how economy works, you don't understand Russian history, you do not know what modern warfare is. The only thing they can do is write all those, pseudo-academic works about Peloponnesian War on, in the times of the sail and, spear and shields. That's their basically everything they understand about that. They might probably get some rumors about some technological gizmos, but that's about it. And they obviously have no clue in terms of the operational strategic level of the modern large-scale combined arms warfare, because everything what they know about it and political class, and this is again, as I already stated, practically all American political class is subverted by neocons. Quoting General Latif, Major General Latif, PhD in physics no less, he says everything they know, political class and public in America knows about war, is from the Hollywood, from the entertainment industry. So here you have these guys who go against the graduates of the general staff of Russia. Guess who wins? As simple as that.
In the eyes of Biden administration, they're talking about the NATO getting stronger. When you look at NATO right now, we see Germany is going down, their economy, we see the inflation, we see the strikes, farmers are not happy in Europe. And at the same time, Biden believes that NATO is getting stronger because they're gaining land in Finland and Sweden. When you put all these pieces together, how do you see NATO today?
It's extremely weak. And again, I can quote my good friend, Colonel Vladimir Trukhan, from Central Apparatus of Ministry of Defense of Russia. A couple of years ago, we've been talking, he said, we don't even sweat about European NATO. And the point, which is true, the only danger which, for example, the joining of NATO by Finland entails for Russia is obviously the possibility, and it will happen, of Washington deploying some kind of the missile weapon systems at the close to the Russian borders. That's the only thing they gain. In terms of the resources and come on, population of Finland is around 5 million people, and this is less than one of the boroughs of the city of Moscow. Okay, so just to give you example, they have the huge for their population huge territory which they cannot really realistically defend. And again, considering the fact of Russia's overwhelming, we're talking about it just by generation or two advantage in the standoff weapons, which obviously we know Russia runs out of missiles now for what? For 2 years. So, and I mean, yeah, they can create some threat, but in terms of the real war, NATO is incapable of fighting it. And as you already stated, also because of the tremendous economic problems. And this is just a warm up. They will exacerbate dramatically those problems. And Russia obviously considers this in its strategic forecast and strategic planning. And in this particular case, what do you get by obtaining new territory? Not much. It's the same thing which they thought that they started to measure successes by the number of kilometers covered a day or number of the captured territory. War is not about this. War, per Clausewitz, is what? To compel the enemy to do our will. And you can do it today in the 21st century, not even moving anywhere. And that's the thing which they still cannot wrap their brains around. And yeah, yes, if we talk about the neocons who plan all that, and this basically, shysters from the academy who, graduate all those political science and, government and strategic studies things, they don't understand that actually, what, if you have the number of missiles and as sophisticated and with the ranges which Russia has, yeah, good luck trying. So it's just simple as that.
When this war started, everybody was talking about Russia gonna get all of Ukraine in 2 weeks. And when Russia didn't do that, everybody was talking, no, Russia is weak because they're not doing this. But when we look at this strategy, we've learned that winning a war doesn't mean that you're gonna gain more land. It doesn't necessarily mean that. You can win a war strategically and militarily, and you don't need to go all the way to the western part of Ukraine. What's your interpretation of this kind of strategy that nobody was talking about this before Russia doing this?
Well, it's a classic Russian approach, which is, again, I speak about it often. I have to admit, however, when the special military operation started in February 2 years ago, I also thought that probably there will be some, big air offensive. The Kyiv will be blocked and Kharkov will be taken because the pro-Russian forces will rise up, and that was the idea. Well, guess what? To my well, then I corrected myself. After that, I never returned to this previous point of view. There was no pro-Russian forces in actually Kharkov or Kiev. Actually, majority of population of Ukraine, majority. Don't know how large of the majority, but it is majority. We're looking probably what 65-75% of population. They are very Russophobic, and that's the whole point. In this particular case, as we already know, this was the demonstration of force to convince Ukraine on what was happening already then, the initially secret and then open negotiations in Istanbul, especially to, just submit to Russian proposals in terms of the neutrality. And basically that's it. Well, guess what? I was mistaken, and now you, in a month or so after that, you begin to understand that, they were correct. Yeah, why? Why do you have to go there and actually try to take Kiev when you actually Kiev is an extremely Russophobic city? And when you look attentively at their mood and the way how they have been brainwashed for those years, the remnants of their basically suspicion, so to speak, that there could be some serious pro-Russian forces have been gone. So what do? Why do you have to take those people at that stage? At that stage, 2 years ago, when they thought that they were so great and the whole world was with them, why would you go and basically you're not liberating them? In their minds, you will be conquering them. So, and their strategy was absolutely correct to stay on the line of those newly joined, indeed pro-Russian oblasts, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Lugansk, and Donetsk, and basically do what Russians do. And this it was their strategy of the exhaustion and attrition, because after they failed their negotiations in April or in March of it was actually April, beginning of April 2022 in Istanbul. This is where you can start the real count of the real special military operation. It started in earnest after that, when Moscow understood that, okay, Boris Johnson flew in, they sabotaged those negotiations. Now West comes, and backs up Ukraine all the way. Well, there you go. Let's do it our way. And you know what happened. So basically, by now, we are now looking at the fourth iteration of the armed forces of Ukraine being annihilated. And of course, in terms of quality, it's not even comparable. It's basically hodgepodge of force of cannon fodder. So, and there you go.
With what we've learned, as you've mentioned, we still see people like Ben Hodges, Petraeus, these guys, when these guys trying to convince that Ukraine can continue this war against Russia, do you think it comes out of ignorance, or they don't care what's going to happen to Ukraine, just let them fight to the last Ukrainian? Or they really believe that Ukraine can do something in the battlefield?
All three of that, but primarily comes from the extreme professional envy, because there is no American general in existence who won anything in their life. The only thing they do, they lose wars, and they lie to public, as for example we learned through the Washington Post papers, when they basically were lying to the to public, to their faces, while saying that they're winning, when in reality they lost control of Afghanistan pretty much from the outset. And so in this particular case, yeah, it's ignorance. They don't understand. They don't know the modern war. Where did they fight anything like this? They never fought anybody who really can really seriously shoot back, let alone people who have the better air defense, better missile weapons, extraordinarily well designed reconnaissance strike complexes, and better tank forces. So what do you expect? And then of course, and yeah, they're in extreme sour grapes, extreme professional envy and jealousy. This is also partially drives them. They cannot fail to understand. And I am not much exaggerating that if you take any Ben Hodges and put him to command brigade right now, let alone to put him to command brigade, Russian brigade in 2022, he wouldn't know what to do. He doesn't understand weapons. He doesn't understand how it is integrated. They do not understand what real serious defense is. They don't understand how and why Russian field manuals and operational manuals are written, despite the fact that they try to supposedly study them. It's useless, And yeah, they grew out completely different military culture, which never encountered since 1950 anything serious in terms of the combined arms. What combined arms are we talking about? Utterly semi-literate, utterly incompetent Iraqi army or Taliban? Taliban, I mean, come on. And that's the only thing they know how to do is counterinsurgency. And they think they know how to do it. Of course, they don't, because they failed at this too. And when you look at this, so okay, guys, how are you going to be fighting against the force which has not only extremely well equipped and actually state-of-the-art air force, air defense, the likes, they cannot even comprehend what Russian air defense is, how it is layered, how it interacts, and let alone the infantry, such as Russian infantry, and such as level of training and combat experience. They have nothing, and as because of that, they believed their own fairy tales, and then of course, yeah, as I already stated, that this is a classic sour grapes.
As someone who's living in the United States for many years, when you look at the United States today, especially when this conflict in Ukraine started, you just hear the voice of people like Ben Hodges, Petraeus, these people who are Russophobes. You don't hear in the mainstream media, you don't hear people who are opposing this type of thinking. So what's happening in the United States, in your opinion?
I mean, it's the virus of exceptionalism, which is especially went completely bananas after what they consider the great victory over Iraqi forces, and this is when the New World Order, and they thought that they accomplished something extraordinary, when in reality it was not. But they thought about it, and then of course you have the utter corruption of the American political system by the issue of donors. You have the situation with the term limits. You have people who literally are professional politicians who do nothing but basically enrich themselves. The corruption of the Capitol Hill was already happening for a while before that. And when you look at this, yeah, and when you get it together with exceptionalism, and now you essentially, the United States is the extension of the foreign policy by Israel. You have essentially the whole Capitol Hill is in the pockets of the AIPAC, Israeli lobby, and so there you go. What else do you expect from those people? And not to speak about the fact that American geopolitical thought was always second rate. They published a lot of books on that, but they certainly haven't been first-rate geopolitical thought. When you look attentively at the whole, I'm not talking about Fukuyama, which is it has become a meme, Fukuyama and the end of history is meme. It's a butt of the jokes. But even if you look at Samuel Huntington, let alone Brzezinski, I mean, the guy absolutely didn't know what he was writing about. He was a Polish nationalist, and his only purpose in the United States was to somehow, just give it to Russia. So this is the type of people who are there, and or if some people say Henry Kissinger, a very mediocre thinker, who basically was selling platitudes as some kind of wisdoms. And when you ask them, what do you know of the outside world? American elites in general are extremely ignorant of the outside world. And this comes with a very low level of culture. They are uncultured. And by culture, obviously, we do not mean the ability to recognize the 12-year-old scotch from the 24 years single cask scotch. This is not culture. This is a refinement, but not the culture. But when you look at those people, cultured from what? And then you get obviously the whole situation is exacerbated with neocons taking the reins, and there you go.
Here comes the role of individuals like Tucker Carlson, who's now in Moscow. After 19 months of this conflict in Ukraine, finally we're gonna hear Putin in the Western media. How important is this interview that he's done with Putin? Why we couldn't get it through the mainstream media in the United States?
Corporate media in the United States is a completely corrupt structure. You have basically a combination of hacks, very ambitious hacks. Average American journalist is pretty stupid and badly educated. You have to understand that. They are, as I already stated, highly uncultured people. And for example, there are also, well, there are other issues which I'm not going to talk about them here, although they are very important. For example, complex of inferiority. And this goes back to Alexis de Tocqueville, famous Democracy in America. And so, and again, average American journalist is ignorant and illiterate. And highly uncultured. And they, as such, as Richard Nixon said, that they are media elitist complex. They are precisely think themselves elites because they are not very bright people. And when you look at this, obviously, by now we have this situation with the massive layoffs across the board. And all those from New York Times to Washington Post to CNN to what have, good, let them die. They are completely corrupt. They never reported anything. They never informed American public. They sat there for the promotion of the agenda. Part of this agenda is absolutely insane, and some parts of this agenda are absolutely satanic. And there are many, for example, American journalists who would qualify for the war criminals status, and they will be charged, I'm pretty sure, when there are many of them who are really genocidal, you know. So, and as a result, let them die. But they will never allow anybody who is bright, talented, courageous, all qualities which they don't have, because most of them are cowards and careerists, and you know. So, and what can I say? Those people have no absolutely honor or integrity, and because of that, they will continue to promote any kind of the most ridiculous agenda, even if this agenda basically leads us to the World War III. Because of the stupidity of those people, they will not recognize it until, of course, they will see everything going in flames. But then it will be too late. And as a result, we have now the development of the alternative independent media, such as yourself, for example, because people, I mean, you know what? It's definitely, we can speak sometimes about this. Oh, hoi polloi, you know what? This, you know, Budweiser drinking, you know, NFL watching people. But actually, it's not necessarily true. Many people, especially the strata, which is very important, they try to seek out the truth. And guess what? As, for example, elections of Donald Trump in 2016 show, apart from the fact that he turned out to be nothing more than hot air balloon, but it still demonstrated that people they were seeking the truth out, and they went out and voted consciously, because nobody expected Trump to win. But he won. He won on the populist agenda, which appealed to the at least half of the country. And that already gives you some degree or measure of the, you know what, consciousness of people. They are not stupid. That's the whole point. People are not stupid. And what happened, we have this media had, I hope so, we had it, media elitist complex with all those insane personalities from Fox to CNN to MSNBC, who are some fanatics actually, basically BSing people nonstop. But people have, for the most part, have a very good BS meter, you know. And eventually, this elitist media complex, which is primarily a product of the, as I already stated, so-called uncultured, extremely illiterate American self-proclaimed intellectual elite, who was in charge of this. It's time is up, you know. And Tucker Carlson, in many respects, is embodiment of this new wave of the people who actually are reporting news. They give their both sides of the you know, issue, and I think so. It's extremely positive development, and they are afraid of it. I don't know how. Though remarkably, as much as I disrespect Elon Musk, I have to applaud him for at least what he done to X so far. And evidently, Elon Musk agreed to run Tucker's interview with Putin without any limitations. So hey, it's a very positive development, I think.
We've learned that Japan and Germany signed a military pact aimed at containing China. Do you think that Washington is behind this treaty between Japan and Germany? And if Washington is behind this, why they're not participating in this treaty?
Yes, I think so. It's Washington. The whole idea of Germany containing China is preposterous. They are pipsqueak militarily, and let alone economically. Japan is a different story, of course. Japan has a very important geopolitical or geostrategic position, so to speak. It is close both to China and to Russia. And United States is terrified of letting Japan go because Japan's real interests lie actually with Russia and China, especially with Russia, with Japan starved for resources economy. But until the United States is there, Japan is going to be used as the type of the unsinkable aircraft carrier, so to speak. And the United States, well, they are lapdogs, both Japan and Germany. Japan eventually will rewrite its whole textbooks on history that it was the Soviet Union which dropped nuclear bombs on atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You can totally expect that. This is what is happening. But it is also shows you how panicked the Washington is. Just thinking about the fact that Japan can, basically fly away, and eventually it will happen because Japan's real interests are not with the United States.
United States, together with the United Kingdom, was fighting Houthis in the Red Sea. They had some difficulties dealing with Houthis, but they asked China to help them to deal with that, to ask China negotiating with Iran talking to Houthis. It's amazing. On the other hand, they're trying to increase the tension in Taiwan. They're trying to do these kind of treaties with Japan. These are against, you can say against China, but it can turn against Russia as well, in the same region, the same area. Is there any type of strategy behind this? Why they're doing such a thing? It doesn't make sense.
No, it makes sense in their mind because most of them are narcissists and sociopaths. And because of that, as I already stated, I mean, they don't have any morals. Those people, many of them, as I already stated, they qualify for war criminals or criminals against humanity. And when you talk about it, I understand it's kind of devastating for any American. Believe me, it's devastating for me. I do not recognize the country anymore. But, the point is that, yeah, that's what they think about themselves. They think they are absolutely, irresistible people. Then China is just ready to, bow to them. And so, they are that stupid, pardon my French. That's the whole thing. I've been saying this for so many years, and now we just finally exposed to the whole, so to speak, the clockwork of those. They are that unaware. They are that stupid. You cannot talk to if you get any guy from the American elite. I probably will reserve some special opinion on the medium level operatives in CIA, for example, or possibly in Pentagon. But the rest of them, you have these people who go to the State Department. They don't know the cultures of the country they are responsible in whatever the desk they man there. These are people arrogant in the extreme, and again, very low cultural level. They basically, the whole thing they know, the study, is confabulated history about the United States being the, it's not absolutely not inconceivable that at some point of time Jesus Christ will be, declared as an American, so, but that's the whole thing. And they are absolutely unaware of their surroundings. That is why they think, oh, we're gonna kill you, but please, you have to help us now, that's exactly how they think. And that exactly shows you full detachment from the reality, and also, as I already stated, a very, very limited intellectual level. They are good at ruses, they are good at cheating, they are good as any psychopath or rather sociopath will be. But they are absolutely unaware of what they're doing and the consequences, because it's like with the special military operation. They have no clue what the consequences will be. They are incapable of calculating that. It comes from the, as already stated, combination of the fictitious, those pseudo-scientific credential industry, because primarily all the humanities, most of the humanities departments of all this Ivy League and all other so-called elite universities are essentially nothing but degree mills. For example, the economic departments of there, you can disband them because they don't teach anything of value. Same goes for the history, same goes for whatever the hell they're studying there. And as a result, you get elites. Yeah, it's degree mills, credentials imbeciles, So, and it's a tragedy. It's a national tragedy, but this is what it is. And we're observing it in the real time. So don't be surprised if they come to Russia at some point of time and said, you know what, we need to build here the military base to attack Moscow. Can you just please help us on that other front, So that's how they think.
If Trump wins, do you think he's going to be able to shake it a little bit?
Donald Trump is, how to put it politely, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go and vote for him because voting, for example, for anything from Democratic Party, it means what? The end of the United States completely. And obviously, I have a vested interest. My family have a vested interest in this country. We don't want it to go completely to, dustbin of history. But Donald Trump is the transitional figure in the basically paradigm shift for the combined West, essentially. So whatever he's going to be doing, who knows? Difficult to say. He failed miserably in his first term. Miserably. He talked a lot. He made sure that he's going to lose the elections, especially while allowing the country going to waste with all this horror of the Black Lives Matter and all that. So, and did he learn? I don't know. I really don't. I hope so. But again, we are voting for Trump because lesser of two evils, but he's not going to change anything radically in the United States. There are other forces at work here. They are historical forces. And does he understand them? Maybe some of them, but I don't think so. He doesn't have the grasp of military strategy or the real governance. And we'll see. What can I say?
It seems that Israel is agreeing on a ceasefire in Gaza. In your opinion, is it coming from the Biden administration forcing Netanyahu to do that, or the Netanyahu administration is doing this because they couldn't achieve their goals, their objectives in Gaza militarily?
Both. It's both. Obviously, Biden cannot allow for his political survival. There's no humanitarian reason behind that. His administration is filled with the Israeli forces, and they wouldn't mind, all those Blinkens and Sullivans or whatever, that the whole population of Gaza be expelled or altogether killed. So that's the type of people. But obviously, he understands, or they understand, that the election with this massacre which is happening right now, which is their war crime. It is a crime against humanity committed by Israel. They cannot allow this to go on. And so, but in the same time, you're absolutely correct. IDF is not up to the task. And of course, once they cannot defeat Hamas, I think so. Hamas, despite its losses, became stronger after that. But of course, if they get Hezbollah, and they already have Hezbollah, and there's other Shiite group which also joined Hezbollah on the northern border, they're not going to win that, no matter how they try. And you already saw yourself what Houthis do. And this is the first time in history when the group which has no naval capability completed successfully the naval operation. Okay, so that's pretty much what it modern weaponry gives you, And again, it's just Houthis don't have fleet, but guess what? They achieved pretty impressive success of basically, choking the choke point. Bab el-Mandeb is a choke point, and there you go. And this is just absolutely unbelievable. We live in the incredible times. It's the historic I mean, I cannot even describe the scale of what we're going through. It's truly global.
Recently, Burkina Faso's interim president was talking about France and its role in Africa. They said that they were fighting terrorism, but they were not doing this. They didn't do anything in Africa. How do you see the policy of Russia in Africa? Are they gonna take over the responsibilities and the duties of the Soviet Union in Africa?
Well, very similar. I won't say that it's parallel, let's put it this way, because Russia is much more pragmatic nowadays. It definitely doesn't support it out of ideological reasons, other than for business reason. But the Russian approach to business with Africans is very simple. Here's what we can give you. How we're going to share this, and they basically discuss the sharing of the spoils. And of course, some little guy in Elysee Palace in Paris is very, very upset because Russia essentially kicked France out of Africa, out of its French possessions, and he is very unhappy. So as many French are, but too bad, so they expose themselves, and Russia pays, revenge is best served cold, as they say. And France is paying the price. It will continue to pay even more for what it does. So there you go. But in terms of Africa, obviously, there will be development projects. There will be mutually beneficial cooperation. So it's just, yeah, in many respects, it is somewhat similar to what Soviet Union have been doing.